So we're going to cover how to bring in these rastered images from Prism, from Oregon State. In this case, we're going to look at temperature first. What we're doing in this is going to be the same application for precipitation as well. So let's start off by bringing in raster layer. Go to my downloads where I know they're at. And in this case, I can find whichever year. So in this case, I'm interested in looking at here's 2005 for January. So we want to look at 2005 for maybe June or July in this case. So let's find the Flash ASC file. It's generally the larger file out of the rest. Let's go ahead and hit open. Let it take a second. Okay, looks like it's got it. So you'll be seeing this. One of the first things I've covered in previous classes is the actual map projection. This is very skewed and distorted. We can easily fix that by clicking this tab at the bottom right. Choose Enable on the fly CRS transformation, and in this case we want the UTM or NAD83 UTM zone 14. That's pretty standard projection. I believe this is what Google Earth even uses, so apply, hit OK, and that looks much more appropriate. So like I said before, you really want to show that your temperature is different than the rest. In this case, for showing those max temperatures, maybe we want to focus within areas that are 90 degrees and above. Unfortunately, this shows the temperature values in Celsius, not Fahrenheit, so we have to remap these values, in other words. So I'm going to go to my style, choose single band, pseudo color. I'm going to keep it in the grayscale, but I'm going to, first I'll invert that so that the whites are actually the max and the darks are the minimum. I'll do equal intervals. And in this case, we want to do a little bit of conversion or figure out what that means. So if I do Fahrenheit to Celsius, I want to look at 90 degrees and 100 degrees and have those separate. I can change this to 90 and know that that's 32.22. So let's go ahead and QGIS do let's do 3 classes. We can have 0, or we could do 32.22 as the minimum. I think we want that to be 0, or yeah, 0. And then 100 is 37.77. All right, so this is how you do it. So 100 degrees is 37.77. Basically, this is a 5-degree difference in Celsius from 100 degrees to 90 degrees. In order to show or to give it some space to breathe, we just want the minimum to be an equal interval below that. So 32 minus 5 equals 27. Basically, that way this will read as black. The 32.2 degrees Celsius, which is 90 degrees Fahrenheit, will be 50% gray. And then 37.77 will be the white. So that's why we say anything that's below 90 degrees is going to read as black or a very dark gray. The 90 degrees, that middle value for the Heightfield, is going to read as 50% gray. And again, this high value of 100 degrees and more is going to read as a solid white, which is going to read as our high values in Grasshopper. And by doing 3 classes, it's going to recognize that that middle one will be right there in between. So 32.38, that's close enough. But like I said, so now you can see that anything that's going to be below 90 degrees is going to be in that spectrum between 50% gray and black, which will read very low in the Heightfield. And then the temperature from 32 degrees Celsius to 37 degrees Celsius. In other words, 90 degrees to 100 degrees will read between 50% gray and solid white. I think I have to make this a little bit whiter. That looks like it's pretty solid. And then if that temperature happens to exceed that 37-degree range, it'll just also make that white. So anything above this value is going to be treated as white. Anything below this is going to be treated as black, just like how we remap values in Grasshoppers. Now if I hit apply, okay, you'll see that now it's really just showing here's really one of the only areas that's at 100 degrees or more. There's a couple areas that are between that 50% gray and white over here, and then everything else is treated as black. And again, the reason we want to do this, whether it's temperature or precipitation, is that we know the values that we're interested in are going to pop out from the rest. Does that make sense? So some other things we want to add to that, and again, this is because you're going to show 10 maps, we don't want to have to go through this whole process of the tedious task of reconfiguring all that, right? So we can simply go down to Style, say Save Style. This is essentially going to be our color palette. Save, apply. And now we have that color palette that we can, every time we bring in a new map, so you'll go to the same thing, it'll have its own color style, go to Style, Load Style, and find that color palette you just generated, and it'll apply that to it. So the only tedious part of this will be just simply bringing in that raster file and then changing that color, and that's it, rather than having to go through this whole step every time. So that should save some heartache. A couple other things we need to do just for legibility purposes is probably show state boundaries, so we know, is this in Nevada, is it in California, is it in Arizona? Again, giving us some context as well as showing the Las Vegas footprints. And again, those are all being provided in your Google Drive folder, so go find those. So Plan 495. Assignment 1 has the city boundaries. Somewhere. Are they not in there anymore? Oh, well. Oh, okay, so I put them on assignment 2 now. So I have city limits. Open. So now you can see they're right here for Las Vegas. You can kind of see Mount Charleston right there. So Lake Mead's right around here. There's the Colorado River. So you know it's in the correct spot, which is nice. And then the last one is those state boundaries. So again, in the same folder, open. If you want to keep them this color, that's cool or whatever. Doesn't really matter. I actually prefer if you just do them as strokes, just to make everything a little bit easier when you start editing it. So once you've brought in your 10 maps, if you decide to go that route, you'll have all that. Now we have to generate our composer. I'll add this as regional data show. I'm going to do this as just a 24 by 36 sheet of paper. Okay, so there's my paper size. DPI, do that around 200. You can do 300 if it can handle it. If not, don't worry about it. Now I'm going to add a new map. Kind of like it to overlap a little bit just to make sure it gets everything. And then I can use this to move it around. This should be pretty good. So I'll go ahead and just move that over. I don't want the state boundaries or the city limits right now. So I can click the refresh button. So that's all you want to show. And then you'd simply do export as image. JPEG should work fine. Do that for, again, the 10-year span. Then you're also going to want to do these ones. Let's put that below so they both show. I'm going to change these to get rid of the fill. No brush for the fill style. Do that same thing for this one. Okay, so we have both there, which is good. Let's go ahead and refresh this again. And then instead of doing it as a rastered image, we're going to do it as a SVG. That way they're all going to match up because it has this boundary, which is nice. Oh, sorry. For again, with this rastered image, in order to kind of, again, blend that edge, you'll see that there's still this white background, right? If I go to item properties, I believe, go to backgrounds, come on, choose that to be black. Now when you save this as a rastered image, when you bring it into Rhino, it's really only going to read the white or the gray parts. So keep that in mind. So again, once you've done that, I've done that as well, so I don't have to save or make you go through that tedious task of remembering or seeing it. Okay, so let's just start a new file in Rhino. So that's pretty much all you have to do with QGIS. Remember, you just need these rastered images from the Prism website, state boundaries, and city limits. You can see that, again, I've already done this to save you the time. Oops. So you can see in this screen, once it decides to load, here's all the years. So remember, organize it a little bit so you can see here's precipitation, here's the temperatures. So you have the color palette in there, so make your life easy, not difficult. So keep that stuff in mind. So what's nice now, let's go ahead and create, oops, not open, but create a new one. I also don't need Excel anymore, so let's close that to free up the RAM because I know Excel takes up so much. So cancel. I don't even think I need anything on